Kansas voters are about to get brown-backed. In a different way this time, as Kansas may be granting power to somebody who's fighting against the supposed scourge of voter fraud. So this is seeing progress. Now, Kansas Governor Sam Brownback reportedly has about a week to decide whether or not to sign a bill that would expand the power of the Secretary of State, this being Chris Kobach, to prosecute voter fraud cases on his own, independently, and that's really important. Now, if Brownback signs the legislation that has passed, of course, both chambers of the state legislature, Kobach would be given the power to prosecute voter fraud cases even when local prosecutors had decided not to go after those cases. Now, wait a minute here. Voter fraud. You're giving more power to the prosecutor to go after voter fraud. Interesting. Now, why would he do that? Well, Chris Kobach is a very, very anti-voter fraud. He's a stalwart warrior. We got to find out those voter fraud. We got to find this voter fraud. We got to root it out. Okay, look, I'm all for free, fair elections. I'm all for electoral integrity. That's why I support going back to paper ballots and transparency in our electoral system. Great. The thing is, Kobach isn't exactly for that. He's against more people voting. In fact, he is instituted and supports a lot of the voter ID laws that we've seen go into effect all over the states that disenfranchise elderly students and minorities, especially. Now, Kobach says that voter fraud is rampant. Really, voter fraud is rampant. How rampant is voter fraud? Well, according to Kobach's own investigation, in 2013, he reviewed 84 million votes in 22 states. Now, how many examples of voter fraud did he find? 12%? 20%? 17%? What is it? No. He found 0.0000017% of the 84 million votes cast in those 22 different states were found to be fraudulent. And look, you might think of voter fraud as, somebody voting twice or something. It could be an incorrect address or not updated address or something simple like that constitutes voter fraud. So you can't even prove that any of those 14 votes out of 84 million had malicious intent. Like, oh, I'm going to vote for Obama twice. Well, that's what they think. They're over there saying, oh, it's a Democrat voter fraud. That's the only way Obama got into office. Is through that voter fraud, voting twice, getting Donald Duck and Mickey Mouse to vote. Get out of here. That's ridiculous. As I said, Kobach's own investigation. This is from Chris Kobach. But no, here's Governor Brownback saying, I might just give you the authority to prosecute more cases, even when the prosecutors in the state decided not to go after it. Like, oh, this isn't that big of a deal. Voter fraud is almost nearly non-existent. But nonetheless, here they are trying to give him more power. Now, election law expert Rich Hansen told Talking Points Memo in an email. He says, I very much worry about Kobach getting additional prosecutorial authority, as he seems to be someone who is willing to make false or exaggerated claims of voter fraud to fit his political narrative. See, that's the thing that we're afraid of. And that's the thing that we've talked about when it comes to these voter ID laws. You get these voter ID laws, well, they're specifically there to fit a narrative, to fit an agenda. Now, to somebody who's a layperson who doesn't really get into the politics and the minutia of all this stuff, voter ID laws sound sensible. Oh, you want to have integrity. You don't want people to vote twice, whatever, right? But they don't understand that the intent behind it isn't to guarantee that our elections are, that people are held accountable, right? And that the elections are free and fair and that, everybody gets their vote. No, it's about cutting people off the vote. Republicans are famous. The father of the modern conservative movement Always said, the Goo syndrome, right? The more people that don't get to vote, the more power we have. The less people that vote, the more power, the more elections that we're able to win. And they've been putting this strategy into states. Florida Governor Rick Scott has been found kicking people off the voter rolls before important elections to try and sway it in his favor. So to think that, Chris Kobach isn't doing this for a political agenda, you got to be on your mind.